and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Laura Battles. And if you have been around for a while, you have noticed that some things have changed on the podcast. First, the podcast title is no longer Teach the Children. We're going to be talking more than just about homeschooling. So it's going to be called The Laura Battles Show, Restoring What Matters. And that's going to look at all things that relate to restoring families and how you can have an impact on your family and not just through homeschooling. So I will continue to talk about homeschooling. That will still be one of my main topics on here. But there's other ways you can restore your family. You can restore it through health. You can restore it through just spending time together, all those different things. And some of those things ways you can restore your family don't necessarily relate to homeschooling. So I wanted to sort of separate myself from doing just all homeschooling and talk about restoring families in general, whether or not you homeschool or you send your kids to public school, private school, pod schools, whatever that may be. So before I get too far into today, I just want to remind you guys to go out and like and subscribe this podcast. Also like and subscribe the Hungry for Wisdom podcast that I'm a part of. Podcast network that I'm a part of. There's 4 other podcasters out there. They're awesome. They're giving you practical ways of how to restore your family. And just like and subscribe all of us. It helps push us out into the podcasting world. You can also leave a comment or share and give us a 5-star review. All right, so let's get into it. So restoring families. I'm not going to go over a lot today as to how you can restore families, more as to why we should be focusing more on families in today's age. Really, it is so busy out there. If you send your kid to public school, they're gone 6 to 7 hours a day. You spend the first few minutes of the morning getting them ready to go to school, getting yourself ready to go to work, or if you stay at home, getting them just out the door. Then they go to school, they come home. Sometimes they do a ton of after-school activities. You're coming home from work, you cook dinner, they're finishing up schoolwork, homework, and then it's off to bed. And you don't get to spend a ton of time together as a family. Some families do have weekends, but you just see the busyness out there. And even as a homeschooling family, I sometimes have to rein in what we do because we spend so much time doing all those extra activities, which are good in and of themselves. I will not say that any of them are bad. We love karate. That's what we do as a family. So I'm not going to say karate's bad. We are at church a lot. That's not bad. We go to co-op. That's not bad. It's just that all these things can add up. And if before you know it, you're realizing, wow, we as a family have not sat down around the dinner table together in a week. We haven't gone on a vacation. And the vacation doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but you realize that you haven't slowed down and sat together as a family. And so I just want to give you some facts and figures about why it is important to come back around your dinner table, around your couch, spending time as a family, just doing things together, and how it helps impact your kids and then their future. So I pulled up some stats and figures. The first one says that eating together every day, the daily touch, is just a natural time for you to talk to your kids. And 71% of teens say this is the best part of their day, is talking and catching up with their family. And they may not seem like it's the best part of their day, but as we all know, and as we were all there once as parents, teenagers can hide their emotions, and deep down, they really do enjoy spending time with the family around the dinner table, especially if that's the one time that you all are together. I know at dinner at our house, when my husband comes home, we sit down a couple of times a week. We always try to aim every week to have between 5 and 7 dinner meals together. Sometimes we get 2, depending on the week. Sometimes we get all 7. But the questions we ask are always, what's your high and your low for the day? And they have to think through their day. What is the high point of their day and what's the low point? And sort of give a short explanation as to why those things were the way they were. And it's really fun because sometimes they'll pull up things that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was your high. Like every once in a while, my daughter will be like, I enjoyed math. And I'm like, we did not have a good math day, but for some reason, that was her high of the day. Or maybe her low was something that I thought was her high of the day. And so we can work through that with them, and we can talk to them. Also just gives them a chance to realize that we are interested in their lives and that we want to be a part of it. So the other part, another statistic about sitting around the table together and having just even one meal together a couple times a week is research shows that kids learn 1,000 plus extra words from family dinner conversations compared to just reading just books out loud. Now, I'm not going to say do not read books out loud. We try to be very diligent about reading books out loud at bedtime as a family. It doesn't always happen. We're not perfect. Sometimes we go weeks and sometimes don't do it. And there are times we're just trucking through books. But by sitting around the dinner table, your kids hear those extra 1,000 words that maybe they wouldn't know or hear at school or just being around other kids. And that gives them a chance to be exposed to a more complex word system. And then if they don't know something, you guys can go look it up together. They can find out what it means, and they can try to incorporate it into their daily language the next day. And it's just really fun. I know sometimes I'll throw in some words and we'll explain it, and then we'll go look them up, and then every once in a while I'll hear them like using it. And it's really fun to see how they choose to get that word incorporated into their everyday language. They also say that kids who eat together regularly as a family are less likely to feel depressed, anxious, and are more likely to report a high self-esteem. Now, when I say sitting around the table and having dinner together, there's ways you can do this. There's some families who say, well, I have dinner together all the time, but all we're doing is watching TV. So you're not really engaging with each other. So yes, that is having dinner together, but you're not engaging. So the way to restore your family and to get you guys going back to being a close-knit family is not just to sit around the table and then turn on the TV, is to sit around the table, not on the table, is to sit around the table, have dinner, and talk to one another and really get to know what's going on in each other's lives. If you haven't been doing this, this is going to feel really awkward at first and really strange, and you might get a lot of pushback from your kids. But I would just really say keep going at it, keep doing it. Eventually, it will become a habit. Eventually, they'll see the benefit in it, and they'll start opening up to you. And if they don't, pray for them. I'm just going to say, just pray and see what God does to change their hearts. And I remember when I first came home from working in corporate America. So I was working in corporate America, had my first son, and then I got pregnant with my daughter. And after that, I was like, I'm done working. I hate leaving my children all day. So my husband went out and I came home. And at that moment in time, I hadn't had that bonding with my son. I didn't know how to interact with him for 8 hours a day. And that, I know that sounds strange and weird to say now, but we had to learn, even when he was 2, how to interact with each other because I had missed those early years, those bonding times. But I also did a ton of praying. Even back then, I remember just praying, God, please knit our hearts together so that we can connect, so that when he grows older, he wants to turn to me for advice. He wants to turn to my husband for advice, that we can bond and be connected. Now, I was making those bonds with our new baby, or my daughter at the time, because I was there every day with her in and out. But my son, I hadn't. And so it took a lot more work. I had to be a lot more diligent about it. We went out on dates. I left the baby at home. And then slowly over the years, I have seen God just knit our hearts together. Is it perfect? Nope. It never will be on this side of heaven. But I have definitely seen that prayer was a very powerful and effective tool. All right. So to continue on about some more stats and statistics, teens who have family dinners 5 to 7 times a week are, and I like these statistics, 4 times less likely to smoke, 3 times less likely to use marijuana, and they're 2.5 times less likely to drink alcohol. And those are just amazing statistics to think that just by sitting around the table 5 to 7 times a week for one meal, your kids are less likely to engage in these risky behaviors that will affect their lives down the road. Now, does it guarantee an outcome? Absolutely not. But I mean, anything that is a lifeline, I'm going to try to do to help save my kids down the road. Do I want them smoking? No, because then once they get addicted to it, it's hard to get off of it. Even if they stop smoking, they have lung issues. Why would I want to set them up for that? They've come out and said any kind of alcohol consumption can lead to you having more chance of having cancer down the road. So let's sit around the table and see if I can prevent them from having cancer by not drinking. Perfect. And also, as we all know, as teenagers, it leads to drinking and driving, DUIs, and sometimes you can't get the job that you want if you have those things on your record. So if I can prevent it or help steer them away, I'm going to try to do the most I can to get them. So if it means that I have a dinner and have to engage my kids 5 to 7 times a week, I'm going to. Now, sometimes you may say, well, we don't do dinners together, but our family comes together every day for lunch. Perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about. It's just a meal a day. They always focus on dinner because most families, go to work and public school. But if you're a homeschooling family and you know that every day dad has the ability to come home and you spend lunchtime together, use it wisely. Spend that time together around the lunch table. If you can do lunch and dinner together, even better. Any kind of meals around the table where you're interacting and talking and getting to know each other just helps strengthen and restore your family. So, family table isn't just about food. It's about hanging out together and getting to know each other. Another thing I calculated out for my homeschool families out there, the amount of extra hours you get to spend with your kids. So on average, kids spend between 6 and 7 hours a day at public school, and they spend about 180 days every year in that public school. So if you take that times the 13 years they go to school, kindergarten through 12th grade, 13 years, times 6 hours a day, times 180 days a year, that ends up being 16,380 hours extra that homeschool families get to spend together. And I just think, man, what could I do in those 16,000 extra hours I get with my kid? Now, I'm not going to waste them and not do anything. Of course, I'm going to still homeschool, still teach them, still introduce them to our family's values. We do Bible study. I try to do Bible study every day with our kids, read aloud times. But anything that I can introduce and show to my kids that reflects our family values, I count that as a win. So if I get 16,000 extra hours with my kids, plural, I'm going to use it as wisely as I can. That way I can sort of make sure they start off their adult life on the right foot. And there's no guarantees in life that they're going to believe what we believe down the road. There's no guarantees that they're not going to do some of the things that I say and my husband say that are not those risky behaviors. I mean, my husband and I did some of those risky behaviors and we had to learn. But if I can save them from entering their adulthood and then their marriage without all that extra baggage, I'm willing to do all that extra work to help them get started, off on the right foot later in life. With that being said, restoring your family is hard work. And I know that my family, my husband and I, could not do this without our church praying for us, without being around other families that pray for us. And so I would encourage you to get involved in a co-op, in a small group, go to a church if you aren't attending, because those are just places where you can connect with other people who are also trying to sort of swim upstream against the current flow. The world right now wants to tell us that family time isn't important. You should all be doing your own thing. No one should be cheering each other on. And I just want to disagree with all that. Families come first. And so If you can swim upstream and be weird, and that's something you want to do, then do it. Join the rest of us who are trying to change, trying to swim upstream and change the way that the world looks at families. Have lots of babies, get married early, just spend lots of time together. And that's one of the best ways to restore families. So take it day by day. Again, practical ways to do that. Start by just aiming to have 1 or 2 meals together a week, and then work it up to maybe 3 meals or 4 meals, depending on your schedule. Again, if dinners don't work, try breakfast. If breakfast don't work, try lunch. Do all sorts of things. If on the weekends, you guys are really busy during the week and you've got your 2 meals in and you still want to do something extra on the weekends, just go down to the park and go on a walk together and look at all the trees and nature. Back into nature is always a great way to restore families. My family today, we sat around on the couch and watched a football game together. It was awesome. I fell asleep. They watched the game with Dad, had lots of bonding time with him. And then we got to spend just that extra afternoon together, just relaxing and enjoying each other's company. So I know this sounds daunting, but you can do it as we try to restore families so that we can make a difference in the future. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. This is short and sweet this week. I will be back with more guests, more ways to restore your families, different tips and tricks of how to get things done. And I just look forward to where this new podcast is going. Again, I will touch mostly on homeschooling stuff, but I may bring in other topics that are not homeschool related. As always, you can go check out the podcast, the network. You can check us out on teachthechildren.net for more homeschooling specific information. I'm down at the Resource Center now that is opened Wednesdays and Fridays 1 to 4 and Saturdays 9 to about noonish. So if you need to come in later in the afternoon on Saturday, just let me know and I will stay later. If you need to come in on a different day because you're busy, let me know and I can try to work that into my schedule. We also have lots of workshop classes up and going here for this fall. We have a mom and me makeup class. We have a couple art classes coming up. We have Rubik's Cube Club coming up, which is super fun. It's fun to watch all the boys get together and figure out how fast they can sort through their Rubik's Cubes. Let me think. I have a few others. They're all on Facebook, so you can check those out and find a way to just find a community. And if you do public school and you can't get into those classes, there will be some in the afternoons and evenings and weekends as well. So we're homeschool first. The Resource Center is homeschool first, but I still like to have lots of classes just for families to come in and be able to hang out and be together. So thanks, guys. I'm so glad to be back, and I will see you guys next week.